just got my second lab draw done with Function Health, getting my blood work done. I should have those results back in the next couple weeks. I'll go over those with you guys as soon as I get them back. The age-old question, can you build muscle mass with kettlebells the same way that you can build it with dumbbells, barbells, and traditional gym equipment? That's gonna be the question we're diving into today. And the answer is no. I do not think kettlebells are as effective at building muscle mass and strength as barbells, dumbbells, and cable machines in a commercial gym. Looking at a kettlebell, I think you have to realize that a kettlebell is a very oddly shaped implement to train with. Hence, it introduces a lot of instability to the body when you're using it for any specific motion outside of basic movements like goblet squats or things where you might have a suitcase grip. All of those movements are pretty basic, but I'm talking about things like presses, bench press, rows, different things like that where you really have to consider that implement and how the weight distribution is affecting the stability of the entire movement as a whole. When it comes to how much output your body can exert against an implement while you're training, having more stability in that movement will allow you to exert more force. Higher force production typically means more motor recruitment, and more motor recruitment typically means that you are going to be able to build strength and muscle mass more effectively and efficiently. Unfortunately, in the fitness space, there's a lot of functional fitness, functional training, functional pattern gurus and charlatans that are dying on hills that they should not be dying on when it comes to the modalities and the training principles that they are preaching and teaching to other people. And the reason being is I think that they found something that works well for them, but then they're going out on social media and they're trying to tell everyone that this is the only way to train, and it's just not true. Personally, I get lumped into that category every once in a while because I have an app and a business called Flow Functional Training. Everything that I've always done when it comes to program design is built around very traditional strength and conditioning principles: volume, intensity, progressive overload, applying each one of those variables into a system that is easy and repeatable and helps people move their body and build strength over time. What I think might confuse people with me specifically is they see me training with kettlebells and dumbbells and body weight primarily on social media. So here's where I have to add some caveats about this conversation and my stance on believing that kettlebells are not as efficient or effective for building muscle mass and strength. Quite frankly, I just like training with kettlebells. I've openly spoke about this on my social media many times. For me, I started my fitness journey like in athletics. So I was doing more like barbell-based, Olympic-based lifting all through my later teens into my early 20s as a collegiate athlete. When I got out of college, I continued to train like that for the next 2 or 3 years until I got a job at a local functional training gym. And that's what introduced me to a lot of the principles today that I still use in program design. But quite frankly, my body was really stiff and just did not respond super well to barbell training when I was in my mid-20s. So at some point, like 4 years ago, I decided to go all in on kettlebell training because I wanted to see if my body would feel any different just from using kettlebells. And after doing that little experiment, my body felt better, so I just kept training that way. And I quickly realized that there was some sort of like skill acquisition aspect of training with kettlebells that I found to be very fun and engaging, almost like learning a skill in a sport. So I stuck with that and I slowly refined and implemented more implements back into my programming over the last several years, where now I feel like I have a pretty basic and fun system to follow when it comes to my own personal program. But that doesn't mean that I believe that that's the only way to train, nor is it the best way to train if your goal is strength training and building muscle mass. So I think it's pretty funny that we find ourselves like in this place where it's like functional fitness versus bodybuilding. All exercise is functional. Building strength is functional. Even if it's doing it on a machine, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be crossover to things you do in your everyday life, which is why I think it's so stupid and ridiculous that people actually try to hang their hat on these methodologies instead of acknowledging that there's multiple ways to build strength and muscle mass, and then it doesn't have to just be this one method. Personally, I love kettlebells. My body feels great training with them. And although I know that I can't maybe load up certain movements as much as I could with a dumbbell or barbells or like a machine, at the end of the day, I do feel better. I feel like my mobility's improved, my overall movement quality has improved. I think they're a great training implement, but I don't think that they are the only thing that people should or could train with. If you're someone who doesn't have access to kettlebells, you don't need to feel like you should buy a kettlebell and do kettlebell training because it's some magical pill that's gonna get you the results that you've been looking for. You can get great results doing very basic movements with body weight, dumbbells, barbells, machines, cables, whatever you have access to. And to add into this conversation, I also think that I have to discuss like myself personally. Because I do enjoy kettlebells, because that's what I've primarily been training with for the past 3 years, I get asked all the time, did I build my muscle mass using kettlebells alone? And there's two parts to that answer. The first is in the process of training with kettlebells, I also got diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So prior to that, was having a really hard time keeping weight on. I weighed probably 158 to 162 pounds because literally I felt like I could not retain or hold on to any of the nutrients that I was consuming and eating throughout the day. So when I got diagnosed with Crohn's a couple years ago and got things under control through medication, I literally jumped up over 10 pounds within like probably 5 or 6 months. Was that all because of kettlebell training, or was that in part because my gut was finally starting to heal up and I was retaining some of the nutrients that I was eating? Probably the latter, but I happen to be kettlebell training in the process. So I don't want you guys to think that you can't build muscle mass and strength with kettlebells. Of course you absolutely can, as long as you properly apply the principles of progressive overload, you get enough volume and intensity in over the course of each training week, and you stay consistent for a long period of time. Truth is, you're gonna see the best results with whatever you can stay consistent with, particularly if you're someone who has struggled with staying in a routine in the past. Overall, I just wanted to make sure that the waters weren't muddied here. If you're looking solely to build muscle mass and strength, I highly recommend doing primarily dumbbell, barbell, and machine work at a traditional gym. They're easier to overload, those implements are more uniform, and you'll be able to apply more force while you're doing those lifts. All right guys, I'm actually not going to the office today. I'm gonna be going on a date with my wife because today is our 7-year anniversary. So I'm gonna tune out here. I'm gonna let you guys come back and join me for a little home workout today. We're gonna be doing some sprints, some plyometrics, and I believe an upper body bicep and back workout. So I'll bring you guys along for that. I'll explain a little bit about what I'm doing. But for now, I'm gonna go on a little date with my wife. See you guys in a little bit. What's going on, everybody? We are back from our little brunch date. My wife and I celebrated 7 years of marriage today, so pretty pumped on that. Got to go spend some good time together, but before I go pick up the kids from school, I'm gonna hit a quick workout. We are at home, so I'm gonna be doing a majority of my workout here. Got a pretty simple setup with a couple pairs of dumbbells and then like a few of my kettlebells, and then I'll be doing a lot of like my sprints and plyometrics and stuff like that out in the front yard. But it should be a pretty fun workout. This one's made specifically for helping you develop your athleticism. So we're working on explosiveness, agility, doing some plyometric work kind of right out of the gate after we get warmed up, and then we'll do some sprints. I believe we have some 80-meter sprints today, which is a little bit of a longer distance for sprints in general, but overall should be a pretty fun one. So if you guys want to follow along with this one, let's rock and roll, and I'll show you guys exactly what I do to get warmed up, how I conduct agility and plyometric based stuff as a 31-year-old guy that's not training for anything specific when it comes to sports or athletics, and then how I kind of go into my sprints, how I conduct those, and then we'll come back here and do a little bicep and back workout. So let's go. All right, before we get going, guys, I'm getting this entire workout from the Flow Functional Training app, so everything's right here on the app. It's super simple to use, has demo exercises and everything built into it to show you exactly how to do each exercise. We've got 3 different training tracks that we're doing right now that are evolving, and so I program for them on a weekly basis. This one is from the Functional Athlete Training track. It's 5 days per week, so this is one of the days that's built out more for, like I said earlier, athletic development, and then doing some upper body accessory work. Typically this will be done on Tuesday, but because I'm not up at the studio and have access to more of my weights, I'm doing this one today, and then I'll do my full body strength workout tomorrow, but let's dive into it. All right, guys, this is what a full body kind of dynamic warm-up is gonna look like for me before I do any plyometrics or speed work. We start out with 10 walking ground swipes, pulling that toe towards your face, loosening up the calf and the hamstring. Then we're gonna head straight into an extended lunge to an overhead reach. This is really gonna loosen up the hip flexors, the quads, and just overall kind of get your body loosened up from sitting all day. If you're someone who works at a desk like I do, this is really gonna help loosen up those hip flexors and get them ready for sprinting and going into hip extension
extension. And then we head right into some skipping variations. This is gonna be some ankle flips, working on striking the ground right beneath you. We'll do 20 meters total. Then we'll head straight into some ankle skip into an A skip, okay? So we're alternating sides, and this one's a little more advanced and helps kind of working on that gait cycle. And then we'll do some reverse hip opener skips. Really love these for kind of loosening up those hips. Right into some heel taps, or heel skips, excuse me. Again, just really good variations for loosening up those hips and getting them ready for any type of sprints and plyometrics. This is some running skips, super simple and easy, working on getting the explosive and up into the air. And then finally some A skips. Keep that toe pulled up towards your shin and try and strike that ground right beneath you. B skips, working on similar motions to the A skips, so we're kicking that leg nice and straight and then cycling it back underneath you, striking out just in front of you on the ground. Really simple butt kickers, loosen up those hamstrings a little bit, and then some high knees. I got pretty lazy with some of these movements today, but overall you guys get the point, man. This is a great way to warm up and get your body loosened up for the workout. This is going straight into the plyometric series. We've got 6 broad jumps, working on bringing the hands and hips down together, exploding, really getting that full triple extension through the ankles, knees, and hips, and covering as much distance as possible, landing nice and soft. After that, we did 12 alternating jump lunges. Notice I'm a little scrunched up on these. That's by design. I kind of want to be pressing through both feet for this specific variation. Really getting as high as I can on each rep. Once I hit 12 reps, shake it out a little bit. And then we've got some 1-2-1 lateral shuffles. This is working on kind of some lateral plyometric ability. I love doing those little taps in the middle, land nice and soft on each of those things as I change direction and really springing into my hip. And then we head straight into our sprints, guys. 8 sets of 80-meter sprints, and I'll do a little breakdown of how I'm approaching these here in just a second. But starting out nice and hard, accelerating through 30 meters, and then holding that for 50.
Whew. The main thing you're always trying to achieve, really once you get like above about 30 meters, is being able to sustain your top speed, or at least close to it. So like on these, I'm trying to get up to about top speed around that 30-meter mark, and then holding it for about that last 50 meters, roughly around 95% effort level. I usually don't go 100% in training just because there's always that chance and likelihood that you can get injured, but overall feeling good, trying to get out of the gate as quickly as possible. Legs definitely ain't as fast as they used to be. All right guys, that was plyometrics and sprints. We did 4 sets of all those plyometrics, all 3 of those. I really like incorporating those at least once per week because I feel like it allows me to work on explosiveness in multiple different directions. So it's a perfect kind of like combination and mixture of like small grade plyometrics. They can all be modified. I tell people, like anyone that's new to plyometrics or introducing them as an adult, you have to start small. So doing like small grade plyometrics, even things like jump ropes, bunny hops, even those running drills that I did at the beginning of this video to warm myself up for the plyometrics and sprints will help build up your tendons and ligaments and all the things that people typically will injure while doing those activities if they're not prepared for it. It will help those things become more robust, more resilient, and they'll make those adaptations over the course of time if you're consistently doing them in your training week in and week out. We did 4 rounds of plyometrics. After that, we did 8 80-meter sprints. Really good sprint session. Felt pretty explosive today. Now it's time to hit some biceps and back. Today we got a descending rep scheme. We're going 12, 10, 8, 6 on each of these exercises. So the idea there is to load things up a little bit more each round as we go down in the rep range. This is good for mitigating the effects of getting fatigued while also being able to lift relatively heavy while you're doing upper body lifts. Let's go get after it. All right guys, we got an upper body biceps and back workout, basically upper body pull focused workout. 12, 10, 8, 6 was the rep scheme. This is my last round, so I'm doing 6 reps on basically everything across the board. First one we're gonna start with is dumbbell curls, using the 40s for these. Nice and slow, try and prevent swinging, dig those elbows into the ribs. Palms towards you at the top. 1. Holy moly. Next up, we got 3-point rows, 6 reps on both sides. This one's more ideal if you can do it with a bench or putting your hand on like a dumbbell rack, just because it'll give you more range of motion. If you have a dumbbell and stand it up on its head, totally fine. Push those hips back, hinge over at the hips, back's nice and flat. I'm taking my wrist to my ribs and then allowing that arm to get fully protracted forward here at the bottom. Here we go. 2, 5, 6 reps. Switch sides. 2, 3. Next up, we got 6 high pulls on both sides of the body. I'm gonna use the dumbbell for that one again. Chest nice and tall. Try and get that weight up even with the collarbone. 2, 3, 4, 6. This is almost kind of like a shrug, where you're keeping that weight close to your body, so you're trying to drive that elbow up as the hand comes up the body. 2, 3, 4, 6. Kettlebell snatch, 3 on each side for this one. Big thing on the kettlebell snatch is trying to keep that weight as close to your body as you can once you go into that driving phase of the lift. So you hike it into your groin right here. As you stand up and get your body upright to produce that force to get that weight to come up overhead, try and almost do a high pull row as you come up the body. That's gonna keep the weight closer to the body and allow it to float around your forearm so you can catch it nice and soft at the top. Here we go. 3 reps each side. Pressing through the ground, getting the power from the ground up. Upper body's not doing hardly anything on these. Oh, whew. All right, since we're working down in the rep range, I'm actually gonna add this weight to the inside of my legs to kind of load this one up a little bit more. This is a set of 6. I started out with 12, did those straight through with body weight, and then went 10, 8. This is the first round I'm gonna load up with a 20 pounder, just to kind of overload this movement a little bit. Been doing more of a wide grip variation to try and get more into the lats, getting that chest to the bar, coming back down nice and slow. 1, 2, 4. Woo. All right, and that'll do it. Solid little workout, guys. That one lasted me in total about 50 minutes, so pretty efficient. If you guys want to learn more about this style of training, check out the links in my bio. I've got a link to my app, which is exactly where this workout came from. I also have a link to a 7-day free guide, some merch, all my brand partners. Go check them out. Links in the description. If you guys like this video, please, it means the world to me. Make sure you like, subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one.